Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review for It. Welcome to Derry, Season 1, Episode 3. We are 3 episodes in here,
Mhm.
and I am thrilled to say that I have come out of every single one of them just feeling like, man, is this show so good.
Yeah, the storytelling is next level. This is really one of the best shows of the year. And this is a show truly for everybody. If you're like me and you haven't seen the movies and you've read half the book and then you put it in the freezer because it was too scary when you were a teenager and you never finished it and you don't remember it and you don't really know anything about it, you can jump into this show and it's totally fine. They're not making it that you have to have seen the movies or read the book. Even with the character of Halloran, who is from The Shining, you don't need to know that. You don't need to have seen The Shining. They are explaining everything for you. And I love prequels like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that with Doom Prophecy as well. Like, I went and watched the movies because I was like, okay, we're going to cover the show. Okay, cool. To learn that I really didn't need to. They did a great job.
Yeah, I've seen the movies, but at the same time, I feel like I would enjoy this show every bit as much in the event that I didn't. And sure, there are Easter eggs happening, and there are things happening
For
on this
sure.
show that do matter down the road. But it's just what I love the most about Welcome to Derry right now is that they have managed, especially in episode 2 and episode 3, to deliver these huge surprises that kind of make you feel differently about the world of Derry, but at the same time, it doesn't change or alter anything else. I
Yep.
really was sitting back before watching the show and being like, all right, how are they going to make any of this stuff in the past matter? Because I kind of know where certain things are going with Pennywise, so they're really going to have to work that much harder. But lo and behold, they have.
Yes.
Well, we have a lot to get into in this video, especially when it comes to Shaw, this big connection with Pennywise that is established here. But before we dive further into any of
Mhm.
it, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we are here all season long with coverage of It. Welcome to Derry. We're taking you through all these events, and we love hearing what you guys are saying about the show and all of the scares in the comments.
Absolutely. And if you want to talk to us further about it, you can head over to our Patreon. We're having more discussions, polls, all kinds of chatter over there. So I'll leave a link for you below.
Thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate that.
Okay, so 1908, we've got this boy at the fair that turns out to be Shaw. And there's this whole sequence with the slingshot and Rose and Pennywise, where he actually comes face to face with Pennywise. And now we're like in the future, boop, 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 boop. And he's like, you know what? I know this thing exists because I've seen this. I've been face to face with this and I know what it can do. So I know that this is exactly what we need.
I love reveals like this that make me sit back
Chilling.
and just feel like, what's wrong with me for not seeing this coming? Because I was just fully in, this early flashback and just feeling like, all right, maybe these are just separate characters. Maybe somebody's going to pick up a book and read about it. But no, having it actually be Shaw. And I think it's because in my head, I had sort of buried this character under the weight of, okay, here we go, stereotypical military boss who thinks that he knows everything. But then we start unpeeling all the layers and getting into his history, seeing the past and come back in the present, and we get these little drops of, oh, I didn't remember all this stuff until I came back to Derry, and now all these memories are coming rushing back to my brain. I'm just getting sucked in more and more to this world and these potential hijinks, which probably isn't even the right word, that are going to come out of this.
Here's the thing, like, I don't know much about the military, and I definitely don't know that much about the American military. I am Canadian, and that's where I grew up. However, for me, it feels like besides the, tinfoil hat idea that like they have, Sasquatches and all kinds of aliens and stuff going on, it feels a little more like boots to the ground when it comes to military. That's a little more like if you can't see it, you don't believe it. Kind of what the kids were talking about. It was so crazy and unbelievable to me that Shaw was just like with all this like hippy dippy woo woo stuff that he would actually be leading this group in a way that the whole military is gonna be like, sure, you can have this side project with this one guy who's gonna lead you with his mind to find this entity that might do something. It was so strange to me that this was like a reality in the 60s.
It's so bizarre. The only thing I can sort of think about in my head to try to rationalize all of this is okay, so we have Shaw, who's clearly risen up the ranks. He must have some victories under his belt. Has he
Yes.
just pulled off enough operations at this point where everyone's going to be willing to buy into, hey, check out my A team of people with all these special powers. We're going to go and do this.
Maybe he's got some proof we haven't seen yet besides the slingshot that actually got him there.
The only other thing I'm thinking about is this show trying maybe to get into the psychology of the times where everyone was so desperate to get a leg up power wise on everyone else they were so afraid of that, oh, we're going to go to these links. But even still, these particular links are pretty outlandish. This is not a cheap military base, the stuff that he's doing.
This is expensive. So to have the military off doing this stuff, it feels like, yes, definitely he had to have risen in the ranks, is pulling in a lot of favors, but I feel like there has to be something else that he was able to show some kind of proof that this is real.
Yeah, and I'm fascinated to see how kind of all of that is explored. I think one of the ideas that Welcome to Derry in general is obviously playing around with, they're trying to give us hints to as many different Pennywise cycles here as possible,
Yeah.
right? It's every 27 years. We had the flashback way back in the 1900s. We had an allusion to the cycle after the fact. Now we're here with this next stage of Pennywise. I wouldn't be surprised by the time this season is over. We're going even further back into the past. The thing that remains remarkable to me here is this idea that no matter what happens with this A team, they're able to sort of keep it reasonably enough under wraps where they feel like, okay, knowledge is not power in this instance. Like some really, really terrible stuff has to happen. And at this point, if I'm Halloran, who is at least smartly asking questions about this,
Of course, yeah.
or if I'm Hamlin,
Yeah.
I'm just packing my bags. I know that, moving's not cheap, but at the same time, this is enough for me. I'm out.
He has no fear. I mean, Halloran basically confirmed that when he was over at his house having dinner. Where's your son? I never told you I had a son. Uh-oh, I must have heard that on the base. No, I know that you were one of the men that was in my room. I know it. I felt you in my head. Don't go into my head anymore. And Halloran's like, no problem. Because when I was in there, I realized you were a man without fear, and I don't want to mess with that at all. It's like, oh, wow, that's crazy.
They clearly feel on some level that Halen's the chosen one who's going to be able to go in, get Pennywise, and then control Pennywise. And I understand this notion of, okay, defeating fear is a way to take this character down, but at the same time, it's a little bit more than that because this character's always been attached to children.
Absolutely. I love the reveal that Halloran was there because when this whole, sequence happened where Hanlon was asleep and these men came in and attacked him and he figured it all out. And then Shaw was like, we just wanted to see if you were a man without fear sort of thing. I'm like, that's it? You sent 3 guys to his room and he's a man without fear because he handled one attack? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And it was always like the plot hole that just didn't make any sense to me. So having Halloran there be like, yeah, I was there. I had a peek in your mind. And yeah, you are that guy. Shaw is so smart.
Really, really smart. Once again, they're taking these layers and just peeling them off with this guy. So he's not stereotypical military leader at all. He has strategically thought all of this through. And while we may have questions about the finances of all of this, I'm willing to give Derry the benefit of the doubt at this point because they did pay off the reveal with Halloran and Hanlon in this episode. And they are clearly thinking a lot about, okay, we're going to move forward and we're going to use these upcoming episodes to further explain some things that we have seen so far.
Yeah.
Now let's move over here to the kids because there's a lot obviously that happens with the kids, especially leading up to the final seconds of this episode. We get the faintest outline in the show's quote unquote present of Pennywise in clown form.
Yeah. Okay. Raise of hands. Was there anyone that was surprised like me that there was any images at all on there? I was shocked. I thought it was going to be, they're taking that whole sequence in the graveyard. so much of it was so fun. Dropping the camera, taking the
Yeah.
picture, next person grabbing the camera. The ghosts were really cheeseball, which was the first time this season, especially after the last episode with the pickle jar monster, which was just gross and horrifying. Everything with Ronnie's mom, the scariest stuff I've ever seen. So scary to then go in and have basically like these Casper the Ghost type ghosts floating around with this like little bit of light around the back of them. I was like, oh no, this is too cheeseball for this show. But the sequence in the graveyard with them, yeah, taking the pictures, whatever, I was like, there's going to be nothing on those pictures. Nothing.
Like, they can't all be hits, right? Like, all these individual scares. I really like the ones in episode 2. Like, they were phenomenal. I agree
Yeah.
with you about the mom being one of the scariest things that is out there. And
Yeah.
now, I love Casper, the movie from the 90s with Christina Ricci. Can I Keep You? Like, one of my favorite movies of my childhood. At the same time, I don't know if I should be thinking about the 90s movie Casper while I'm watching Welcome to Derry.
No, this was just, yeah, it was a bit too Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, it just felt like they were trying something different. Maybe they were trying to show, I don't know, a childlike adventure sequence and all of this. It's just, for me, I didn't really feel like any of those characters were going to be taken out in that moment. And I think a lot of it is just because they already wiped out multiple people in the first episode. There's only so many characters that you can remove from the equation before it's just like, okay, are we just going to be dealing with new people every 4 or 5 episodes? And then in that extent, are we ever going to be invested in anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this show can and would do that actually, because that's kind of, the meat of the show. And because they did do that right away, to me, it made it feel like nobody is safe. That was just like, okay, they could decide, yeah, Rich is not getting out. Or maybe we all think Lily's the main character, but maybe she's not getting out. Like, you just never know.
What I will say that I agree with you on is I did not think there was going to be anything in those pictures.
Nothing.
Either. It just
Nothing.
felt like they weren't going to be able to get any proof because, yeah, if we're talking about the photo sequence in 2025, they could have proof on those photos and then they could present it to somebody and they could just say, oh, this is Photoshop or this is AI or this is any of these other things. Like, in this particular era, how do you explain that if you show it to an adult? Are you just going to say, oh, did you have somebody put on a costume and wander around?
Well, they're also not that clear of photos. Like, even though this is the first time we're seeing Pennywise as the clown, and you have the kids be like, "Oh my god, like what is that?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's a clown." It's really fuzzy. Like,
Really?
as an adult, if he's coming to me and is like, "Look at this, it's a clown." It's like, kinda. Okay, it's a clown, and if it's a clown, cool. Okay, clowns are real things. So what's to be afraid of this?
My feeling on it for now is that Will is going to show this to his father. And that's
Yes.
the explanation that makes the most sense because
Yes.
father's in the military. He's
Yes.
going to know what to do with this. And because Hanlon knows what exactly this would be potentially, he's just going to bring it to Shaw. Shaw is just going to say, oh, you need to make something up to tell your kid, blah, 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 blah. And it's all going to get buried that way. I don't know if Will's going to be that satisfied with that result, but it just feels like they're not going to have this entire community all of a sudden be on this massive hunt for Pennywise in episode 4 coming up.
No, and there's so much on the line for the kids with this because Ronnie's dad is still in jail for
Yes.
something that he did not do. And Lily out of Juniper Hills, like, Ronnie, like, I want to make this up to you. I want to tell the truth, but people aren't going to believe me without this proof. And it's kind of
Yes.
like, are these photos actually enough proof?
And no, they're not. And I think the reason why is just that they've already established in the first few episodes that this is a town that wants to believe whatever it wants to believe,
Yes.
including that, oh, boys will be boys. It's okay for them to go out on the street and do these terrible things. They're all so clearly dead set in their ideas that they could be actually all collectively seeing Pennywise in full clown outfit on the street, and they would still try to find some other sort of explanation for it because fear, it can be a number of different things, right? It can be something as visceral as that horrible sequence with Ronnie and her mom, but it can also be something that you're afraid of facing within yourself, a
Yep.
trauma, something you've gone through, something about yourself that you don't like. It's easier to ignore it. And I kind of feel like in this instance, everyone will just ignore it because it's easier than facing it.
Yeah.
So there is one more thing I do want to get into here when it comes to Shaw, and this is this idea of, all right, if we're kind of following the timeline of this character and what we have seen now. So
Mhm.
all the way back in the 1900s, he was in the community. He had this experience. He eventually comes back to Derry, and some of this stuff really comes rushing back. The thing that's still kind of not clear to me is that for him anyway, what happens when he leaves this town? How does he sort of perceive these traumas that are going on in his head? Is this something that then motivated him to rise up the ranks to eventually come back here? Like,
Mhm.
this is something that, the greater Stephen King universe has explored a little bit, but I think at the same time, we're exploring everything in a different era with Welcome to Derry, and especially a character like Shaw, because men in this era in particular, you're taught to be machismo. You got to puff out your chest. You got to be strong. You got to completely
Button
shove.
it up.
Yeah, you got to shove away everything. And now I'm sitting back now with this collective amount of information that I have and being like, okay, how was Shaw then able to even conquer everything that he went through as a child to even get to this point in this time period in the first place?
Well, here's the other thing for people like me who have not watched the movies, have not read the book, that it feels a little confusing where it's like, okay, they're explaining he doesn't really remember Rose because he left town. And when you leave town, your memories get all fuzzy, but you remembered Pennywise enough to be able to rise up the ranks and come back here. So it's kind of like, well, then what's the selective memory going on here? What is it that Derry is allowing you to remember and not remember?
Yeah.
You're not remembering anything, or you're remembering some?
It just all feels very pick and choose when it comes to some of this. It just feels like it's the mythical idea of the town always finds a way to draw you back in. And I think that can be compelling enough, but at the same time, I want a little bit more meat on the bone here now with Shaw. Now that you guys have given us all this evidence that this character is so much more than I initially thought, I
Yep.
it's okay to be greedy at this point.
Yeah.
But that is where we are with it. Welcome to Derry, season 1, episode 3. What did you guys think about all the different reveals that we saw here? What do you think the focus is going to be on moving forward? Let us know in the comments,
Mhm.
and also hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate all of your
Yes. Thank
support
you.
as we get closer to 100,000 subscribers, and we will see you here next time.